Hi guys. Now let's talk about the release players of both KKR and GT. We'll start off with KKR first, and one of the most shocking omissions in all of the IPL team's releases, the league winning captain of last year, Shreyas Iyer. I mean, it's a shocking release to even think about it. No winning captain from the previous year has ever been released by a franchise, but here we are, a high-profile Indian batter proved to be an outstanding leader. Shreyas Iyer has been released by Kolkata Knight Riders. And although his batting didn't really speak up for itself because he didn't have to do much in that outstanding KKR setup, his leadership was something of note. I mean, the way he led the side and also played such a selfless role in that campaign, moving himself down the order based on if they needed a more power hitter to bat ahead of him. He didn't think about himself, but put the team ahead of him. And also led the team in an outstanding fashion in combination with Gautam Gambhir. What do you think about this release? There's rumors that it was because he wanted more money and that KKR would have kept him if he agreed to that first choice retention of 18 crores or a good amount of money. But I still feel it's a shocking retention regardless. What do you think?
A release, yeah, I feel like it's a shocking
Shocking release.
release. Because I've never seen a winning captain getting released like that.
First time, I think.
Yeah, first time. But again, we've seen how he has declined in his um, batting average and scores recently after getting released from DC, and that injury also
Mm.
that I think that has affected him a little bit. But again, he's a player that has the caliber to just come back from all this and start doing well again. I really thought GT would have sorry, KKR would have gone back to him and just gave him whatever he asked for. Like considering how we have teams that have given other players 21 crores or whatever the player has. But again, I'm not sure if Shreyas Iyer will get like 25, 30 crores in IPL auction. I don't think teams have that budget to go for him that pricey. I think max he'll go for his 18 again. I'm not sure what Shreyas Iyer was thinking. I think he should have stuck to KKR. That team is the team core that he built with help of Gautam Gambhir and the coach Chandrakant Pandit. I think he should have stuck to KKR if it was his choice to getting released. But again, if it was KKR choice, I think they should have just kept him.
No, to be honest, I did say it was a shocking decision to release the league winning captain, but in my opinion, Shreyas Iyer, the batter, I wouldn't say he's worth all that money. Just because there's so many other better Indian batters out there. I know Shreyas Iyer is a demon against spin. He's a great player of spin. That semifinal knock against New Zealand, that century, I'll always remember. It was 70 ball century. It was outstanding the way he played on that Mumbai surface. He's a quality batter, no doubting that. But I don't know if his T20 game is that relevant. And if he can be an anchor for an innings, but I don't know if he's worth the top retention at 18 crores for his batting alone. But I was just shocked they released the league winning captain just because of that title that he was the league winning captain. But like you rightly mentioned, he's there's no way he's going 20, 25 crores. I actually don't see him crossing 12 crores. I think he'll be sold for 12, 13 crores, and
Yeah,
he's not going to
exactly.
get that money he expected from KKR and Venki Mysore in the auction. So I don't really understand this move. I don't know if he values himself so much because he has that leadership aspect to him, and that there are a lot of teams like
Yeah,
DC,
Punjab
PBKs,
Kings.
Punjab Kings,
Yeah.
RCB looking for a captain. But I mean, there's people like KL Rahul, Rishabh Pant, David Warner, all those guys who can lead a side out there. So I feel that those guys are more valuable in the skill set that they possess in terms of batting rather than Shreyas Iyer is. So in that way, I don't know. I don't know why he didn't agree to that spot, and I actually think it's a blessing in disguise for KKR to try and look out for a new captain who can probably contribute more with the bat as well. It's just I was shocked with the decision in general that they didn't choose to retain their league, the captain that won them the tournament.
Right, that's it. Yeah, let's move on to the next player. I think they released Rahman Al for me, though, I think it was right move for KKR to release him, considering the players that they have retained, Rinku Singh, the batters. Let's talk about Rinku Singh and under also Sunil, and you can call him as a batter if you look at his opening.
Pinch
He
hitting,
was
yeah.
an opening partner for Phil Saul
Phil
last
Salt.
year, but the year before, Rahman Gurbaaz was opening for them. one Gurbaz was their only wicket keeper. If you remember that time
I think
when
they
they
had some
couldn't
local
find
kid
a
like
single wicket
Sheldon
keeper.
Jackson. That might
Uh,
have been before actually. Yeah.
but again, with the considering Gurbaz caliber and stuff, like they should have retained him. But again, the overseas limit and stuff, considering all of that, I think it was the right move from KKR to release him, considering the other players that they have retained.
I mean, no doubt Gurbaz is such a quality batter. I mean, we've seen him play for some stunning innings for Afghanistan in that T20 World Cup as well. He's basically half of their batting lineup along with Ibrahim Zadran. But the quality of the player is undoubted. But I mean, considering the six players they retained, there's no way he's breaking into that six. Uh, he's a quality player, but the six they retained are more like way more quality options that they got at that good price option than Gurbaz. I wouldn't pay Gurbaz 12 crores. I don't see him going over 4 or 5 crores considering he's a foreign opening batter who can keep. There's the likes of Joss Butler and Phil Salt, who are already there to do that duty. So they're the ones who go for the big bucks. And if they KKR wants, they can probably buy him back for max 4 or 5 crores and save a lot of money in that regard. But he's a quality batter, and I think he's someone KKR would definitely look to go back to if they don't get a Phil Salt back or get a Joss Butler in the auction because they do need a wicketkeeper batsman and someone who can open the innings along with Sunil Narayan. So Gurbaz would exactly fit that mold from last year where they had Phil Salt partnering Narayan. They can have Gurbaz partnering Narayan, and he's the same kind of dasher, aggressive batter as Phil Salt. So definitely someone they can go back to for a cheap amount.
Right, so yeah. Let's move on to the next player, Nitish Rana. This one was a little bit shocking to me, considering how he has performed for that franchise from a long time. I thought they would have retained him, but again, we've seen how they have retained the players. But I don't think you'll go more than 10 crores in the auction. So maybe that was one of the reasons that they didn't give him that retention choice. But again, KKR might look to go for him since he has been playing for KKR from a long time. But again, that Indian middle order batsman who is actually performing a little bit decently in IPO is Nitish Rana, and I think teams are looking to buy players like Nitish Rana, so he might be a little tough for KKR to get. But again, I don't think he'll cross 12 to 15. It will be 12 to 15 crores max.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked they actually didn't persist with him last year. I think he played the first couple of games and then got an injury along the way, and then they just didn't bring him back into the setup. They tried guys like Ankush Raghuvanshi at number three. They tried to promote different people, but I'm surprised they just didn't turn back to Nitish Rana a lot in that season. And he's such a quality batter. We've seen him play some outstanding knocks for KKR on difficult pitches. Uh, I think he was with Mumbai Indians like a long time before as well. We've seen a couple of good knocks there, but mainly with KKR, we've seen him play good, and he was actually the stand-in captain when Shreyas Iyer was injured that one season. So the fact that he was backed by KKR for that long, just to like not play for them a lot last year and just like almost fade away from the scene was shocking to me. But like you said, he won't go for that much money in the auction, considering that he doesn't have any like recency bias or last season didn't have the numbers to back him up to go for that big price in the auction. So I see him going anywhere from like 7 to 9, 10 crores at the auction. So something KKR can really consider if they want to get him back to fit that number three slot. Because that's one slot they've actually been bothered by. They tried guys like Ankush Raghuvanshi there, but didn't quite give him that consistency. So they can try going back to Nitish Rana if he fits within their budget range because they only have around 51 crores, I think, right? So they can't go too much for Nitish Rana, but I think 7, 8 crores they definitely be willing to spend because, like you said, Indian middle order batter, top order batters are hard to find out there in the market.
Yeah,
But yeah,
let's
good
not.
release, good release. Try to go back for him.
Yeah. Let's go to the next player, Sheffield Weatherford. Considering how KKR has took the likes of Sunil Narine and Andre Russell back in the team, I think was not gonna get a place in that order. Con if anything, Rahmala Gurbaz deserved more than Sheffield Weatherford. I mean, since I'm not talking about his talent or anything, it's just that he has not proven himself for KKR, and I think it's a good release from KKR.
Yeah, I think it's a good release. He won't go for that much money in the auction. I'd be surprised if he crosses base price unless teams are really desperate for that lower middle order finishing option, hitting option. But I do remember that one innings he played against New Zealand, the T20 World Cup on such a tough wicket, bailed West Indies out with like a 60 odd and just hit some fabulous shots there towards the end. And that innings is just one I remember of his. But he's a quality player, no doubting it. But yeah, won't go for too much in the auction. If they really want, they can buy him back, but I don't know if he'll be on the like their wish list or priority
Radar.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it for Shifra Nathapur. Let's go to next player, Phil Salt. This one came in a little bit of surprise for me though, because considering how he played for the franchise last year, I thought, and his age is also not that high compared to like the Sunil Narayan. I thought they were gonna go for Phil Salt more than Sunil Narayan, and maybe like just retire Sunil Narayan or something, because I doubt Sunil Narayan will play for any other franchise other than KKR at this point of age in his age. So I thought they would take Phil Salt with his aggressive batting, how he has been performing across the leagues around the world. But again, let's see how. I doubt they might go for him because other teams are looking for destructive opening batsmen like Phil Salt. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's destructive opening batter. He can also keep wickets, so that's something that's a lot of teams will be looking after. But uh, I don't know if taking out Sunil Narayan would have been the move though, because Sunil Narayan, I mean, he's the MVP of last season, so I don't know if they would have been willing to take him out. But my ideal mode would have been to maybe try and have one uncapped player and then five cap players around it and try and keep an RTM for someone like a Phil Salt. But I mean, Ramandeep and Harshit are both high quality players, so I don't think you can release either of them. They'll definitely go for more than 4 crores. So in that regard, the only option was to release Phil Salt, in my
So
opinion,
yeah,
or unless you
agreed.
wanted to risk it and put Andre Russell back out in the market and then retain Salt in that place. But I think Russell is a more rare commodity to find than a Phil Salt. Phil Salt, you can find a replacement for. There's a Devon Conway out there.
Yeah,
There's a
exactly.
Joss Butler out there. There's even a KL Rahul out there, Indian wicketkeeper batsman up at the top of the order. So there's a replacement for someone like a Phil Salt where you can find that opening batter who can get you off to good starts in the power play. Especially overseas, there's a lot of different options. But the players they retained are more like rare commodities to find out there in the market. So I feel it was a good decision to release Phil Salt, but he's someone they definitely go back to try and buy because of the success he gave KKR up at the top. So he'll definitely be on top of their priority list to try and get back.
Yeah, good. Rightly said. I agree with all that. Let's move on to the next player though. KS Bharat. I think for me, I think it's a good release considering how he has performed previously in his IPL seasons. He hasn't performed in past few seasons, so I think it was a good release by KKR. I don't think he was going to find himself a spot in the top five retentions.
Yeah.
And in the auctions, I don't think he'll go for more than 2 crores, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good release. I mean, he hasn't really done much of an impact in the IPL over the past 2, 3 years. I remember for RCB, he played some really good innings and was actually used by RCB in a good way at number three. But I mean, I think he was part of GT and KKR and didn't really make an impact for them. So yeah, good release. I don't think he might go base price a bit more than base price because he's shown something at the IPL level. But yeah, if they really want him back, they take him back. But I don't think he's at the priority list. Yeah, good release.
Yeah. So, let's move on to the next player, Manish Pandey.
Your
For me,
favorite.
this is a good release for me because a player like him was not being used in KKR's system. I mean, KKR is loyal to him. He scored his first century in KKR.
I think it was in
I
RCB actually, the first century. Like, yeah, he was in
really
RCB 2009, I think. That was RCB. But that final knock against Punjab was something else, like the 2014 final knock.
something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but again, it's a good release by KKR because they were never using him, considering the batting depth they have, batting strength they had in that side. So I think there are other teams that are looking for his talent. Moving on, I mean, he does have a little bit of bad side to him that he just plays too slow sometimes. But if he can fix that, I think he'll be good. But again, I don't think he's gonna go more than 5 crores in my opinion in the auction.
5 crores is pretty generous. I mean, but once he went 11 crores for SRH,
So
and but at that time, I think he was valued to be one of like the key middle order batters and at number three also. And he did put in a lot of good performances for KKR in his peak. I mean, that like I mentioned, that finals against Kings 11 Punjab 14, where he played that 94 at the Chinnaswamy Stadium was simply magnificent. Chasing 200 in a finals is never easy, but the way he just was the architect of that finals victory for KKR will never be forgotten by KKR fans, I think. But yeah, he's in the latter half of his career, and I feel that he has seen his highs in his career, but he is on the decline currently, and he might, in my opinion, he might go for base price to some franchise as a stabilizer option, backup option if needed in the middle order. But yeah, no doubting the quality of the player. Is just he's not in the right phase of his career right now to warrant those big bucks. So yeah, good release.
Yeah, great done. And then let's move on to the next player, Ankush Raghuvanshi. He did play one or two good knocks for KKR, but again, I don't think he would have found himself that retention spot in those top five that they retained, especially with the likes of Harshit Rana and Ramandeep Singh. I think they could get him back. I mean, he's pretty young, so that's the only case he could have put in front of KKR. But other than that, I think they can find another player like Ankush Raghuvanshi if they do miss him in the auction. So overall,
Yeah,
I think it's a good release.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, those two uncapped players they retained, Harshit Rana and Ramandeep Singh, did way more for them last year than Raghuvanshi did. And those guys are also guys that have age on their side. So in that way, definitely a good release. He did play a couple of good knocks for them, and he did look like a talent. He played for India in the Under 19 World Cup as well, I'm pretty sure. And he did look like a talent, but I don't think he performed enough to warrant the big bucks in the auction. So they really saw something in the nets in him that wasn't seen in the open. It's definitely can go back to him for a relatively cheap price. So yeah, good release.
Yeah. Next up player, we have Anikul Roy. I think overall, with the players we have talked about, I think it's a good release for KKR. So, I mean, he was not going to find a spot in there. So I think it's a good release.
Yeah, I mean, left arm spinner was used sparingly by KKR, was brought in sometimes as the impact player, I think. Can bowl in the power play, can bowl in the middle overs. I think he also has some skill with the bat. I think they might have promoted him to number three one game, but didn't work. But still, he has some skill with the bat as well. Can bowl. He's obviously he's not the level of an Akshay Patel or Ravindra Jadeja, but that similar commodity type of player, except very inexperienced. But yeah, as you mentioned, can't retain him in that top six. They really did see something in him. They can go back to him for base price or a bit above base price. He'd be a pretty cheap buy. So yeah, good release.
That's it. Let's move on to the next player, Venkatesh Iyer. This one came as a surprise to me. I thought they would really go back to him, but again, looking at the retentions they did, I think maybe they could have just released what's his name, Ramandeep Singh, and use that RTM card on either Ramandeep or Venkatesh Iyer, depending on who goes more or less. But again, Venkatesh Iyer was a great player for KKR. I think he'll go for some big bucks in the IPL auction.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was probably the one guy I would have thought of retaining over any of those top six. The impact he had for KKR was simply outstanding with the bat. Batted at number three, scored an amazing century against Mumbai Indians, I think. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but that innings is still fresh in my memory. Uh, he's been so aggressive whenever he's come out to bat, and he can hit some towering sixes against the spinners, and also has a wide range of shots against the Pacers. And he was just brought in out of nowhere by Brendan McCullum and just showed his skills from game one. And he's a quality batter and just looks so
Just want to
elegant to
say,
watch.
just want to say he's known as an all-rounder, but I only seen him bat. So
Yeah, I
just
mean,
keep it in mind.
yeah, he has bowled one over here and there, but they haven't really used the bowling side of him. But he does have that option if needed. They mainly just used him as an impact player, like you said. Yeah, they haven't really tapped into the all rounder side. But like you said, he's gonna go for some huge bucks in the auction. Think around 10 to 13 crores anywhere, if not more, is his range because yeah, obviously Indian batter. You can also get one over out of him if required. Uh, I think, yeah, he's a commodity that will be sought after at the auction. And the only thing is, I don't know which of the six players they could have released. But like you said, maybe one of the uncapped players. But I mean, those uncapped players would go for a whole lot in the auction. So I guess it's better to just try and buy back Venkatesh Iyer than retain Venkatesh Iyer and also buy back one of those uncapped players for a lot of money as well. So at least you're saving money here on one of the uncapped and then going more on one player rather than going a
Yeah,
lot on two players. So in that way, I'd say although he's a quality player, it's a good release, but he's definitely someone they want to buy back. Him and Phil Salt are two people they want to bag at least one of them for sure.
yeah, exactly. Rightly said, but let's move on to the next player. Suyash Sharma, he was one of those packages they had with Venkatesh and Sunil, not Venkatesh, sorry. what's his name? Sunil Narayan and Varun
Yeah.
Chakravarti. He was one of the packages that they had. If it was a very spinning wicket, they just put all these three spinners, and he has a good action in his bowling too. But again, I think he has not proven himself in the last IPO. It might be because lack of sorry, full of talent in KKR. He was not able to get a place in that playing 11 most of the times. It was usually just Sunil Narayan and Varun Chakravarti. It also might have been because since he's young, they just want to let him learn a lot more from the experience. But again, in that case, they should have retained him. Maybe they didn't see that much in the nets or something from him, but we've seen how good he is of a spin bowler. So I think he might go for like 5-6% option. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we he was brought in as an impact sub, I'm pretty sure, in his first game itself and picked up around I think 3 wickets against RCB. But my only issue with him is he bowls too many loose balls. I think he's bowled quite a few half trackers, and he has been on the expensive side, but I mean, he did show skill, he did show talent in that I think it was 2 years ago. And but then last year he just didn't get enough playing time and mostly warmed the benches, so couldn't really make a fair judgment about him last year. But yeah, I think like you said, he'd go around 4 to 6 crores in the auction, considering he is that Indian spinner, which is probably the rarest commodity to find out there. But considering KKR have two world-class spinners already in Narayan and Chakravarti, there's no point using up a third retention on a spinner and just pack yourself with one type of commodity. So in that way, yeah, it's a good release, but they can buy him back for cheap. They might try and buy him back because he did give them some results.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next player. Allah Gazanfar, player from Afghanistan.
Oh, he was there?
Uh, Yeah, he has been released by KKR. Like you said, we never seen him play for KKR, so
Yeah.
we don't know how much talent he possesses from KKR perspective too. So considering how they retained those international players like Under Rathore and Sunil Nargan, they were never going to retain Love. So, but again, I feel like he has been playing a little bit decently in the international market.
And
So
more than he's been rocking international cricket over like the past month. I think everyone is talking about Allah Ghazan for like everyone's impressed with the way he's bowling. Yeah.
yeah, considering that, he should go for 5 to 6 crores in the auction, I feel like. But again, he's an international player, so it might depend on the teams. And let's see what do you
Yeah,
think.
like you mentioned, he's been really good in the he's been playing really good for Afghanistan, and he people are looking at him as the next big mystery spinner from Afghanistan. And I mean, obviously, when they released him, he hadn't really shown as much, but the way he's just progressed as a cricketer just is fascinating to watch. And I feel that he'd be someone to really watch out for in the auction because he's one of those players who could just, based on a short amount of time, just shoot up to around like 9, 10 crores out of nowhere just because of that spinning commodity brings. We saw Spencer Johnson hit 10 crores last year based on BBL performances. There's no guarantee that Allah Ghaznfar won't fetch that money. So I feel like he's one of those players where he's just come up, but that's enough to give him that a lot of money because people might think he's the next Rashid Khan or the next Mujib and just spend a lot of money on him, thinking they're
I
getting
think
the
he
big
was a
mystery player.
replacement for Mujib last year.
Hmm.
That's where I
Okay,
know.
okay, okay, okay.
But yeah, that's about it for Allah. Let's move on to next player this month, Chamira. I think it was a great release from KKR. I mean, there was no way he was going to find a playing spot in KKR and a retention spot also with Sunil Narayana. So I think it was a great release.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was brought in mainly as backup to Mitchell Stark, whom we'll talk about later. But yeah, I mean, I like him as a bowler. He bowls good pace with the new ball. But yeah, like you said, there's no way he's finding a spot with those six that they already have retained. So yeah, a good release.
Yeah, let's move on to the next player, Shakib Al Hasan. I think he's on his later part of his career. He used to be a great all-rounder in T20 eyes.
Oh, wait,
But
Nanish, I
again,
think it's not Shakib, it's Saqib Hussain. It's a different guy.
oh, okay, cut
It's
that.
a Indian, like Bengal cricketer, I think.
Okay, cut that.
Okay, yeah, we'll just cut that.
Three,
He's
two,
19. Pace sensation. I think P-Dog or someone was talking about him.
okay,
Uh,
I will not say anything. You can talk about it.
okay, okay, okay. You can just say like just introduce him as a left arm pace ball. I think P Dog was saying he could have come in from Mitchell Stark or something when he was having a bad time. So just say that.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's move on to the next player, Saqib Hussain. Not I haven't seen him play for KKR a lot. Actually, not a lot. Never seen him play for KKR. He's a left-arm pace bowler. But again, he was not gonna find that retention spot. You think he might just go for base price again in the IPL auction? What do you think, Shravan?
Yeah, I think he was people were talking about him trying to maybe come and replace Mitchell Stark as an Indian fast bowling option when Mitchell Stark wasn't going that great. But yeah, I haven't really seen much of him either. And I actually he's a right arm medium bowler actually. Sorry I messed up, so we'll cut that out. Let's just restart him, bro. Let's just restart him. Let's restart him. Okay. I think I messed up. My bad, my bad.
Okay,
Okay, he's right arm,
right
right arm,
arm,
right
right
arm.
arm
Right
medium.
arm medium,
Okay,
apparently. That's what Cricket Info says. I don't know why I thought left arm. Okay.
okay, ready?
Right arm medium.
Three.
Yeah, right arm.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's it for him. Let's move on to the next player, Saqib Hussain. Never seen him play for KKR. So I mean, overall, I think he's a right arm medium fast bowler. So overall, I think since he has never played for KKR and he doesn't have that much experience, he was never going to get into that top five retentions. Even 4 crores, I think, is a little bit too much for him, considering the players that they have retained and the considering players we have talked about too. So I think it's a great release.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's no way he's getting ahead of Ramandeep and Harshit Rana, but there were people who were saying he could potentially play for Mitchell Stark as an Indian seamer so that when Mitchell Stark was not in form and was getting hit around the park, they were thinking of bringing someone like a Shakib Hussain in as that pace bowling option and maybe use that extra overseas option in Sherfane Rutherford or something to beef up the batting. But yeah, I haven't seen much of him play either, but apparently he has some good pace and he's a good bowler and he's only 19 years old as well. So someone to watch out for in the auction to see who picks him up. Maybe can be useful on surfaces like the Wankhede.
Yeah, okay. That's about it for him. Let's move on to the next player, Vaibhav Arora. We've seen pretty decent bowling stats from him in KKR, but again, Harshit Rana has taken the spotlight over there as an uncapped retention over Vaibhav Arora. He did have like few games and few death over bowlings, good death over bowlings, but again, Harshit Rana has taken the spotlight, and I think Vaibhav Arora might just go for 4 to 5 crores in IPL auction, considering there is a demand for pace bowling this year. So let's see about
Yeah, I mean, this was probably my third best uncapped player on the team that I would have considered to retain, just because of the skill set he brings. I mean, we saw like his new ball prowess, like he can swing it both ways, very good in the new ball, picks wickets, is very economical. If I'm not wrong, he was the guy who got removed Travis Head in the finals last year, right? Was it
yeah,
him?
he was. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I mean, he's outstanding with the new ball, and he's shown his credentials there. And the only
He
thing is,
can
I
even
don't
bowl a
think he
little bit
could.
in the depth.
Yeah, he did bowl in the death, like you mentioned, and he showed some good skills there as well. So considering he can bowl in both phases, he's someone I would have tried to get back. But like you said, Harshit Rana just stole the spotlight away and clearly took that first uncapped retention role. And I don't. Ramandeep Singh is a different type of player, so no point comparing those two. But I think Vibro is something they're definitely going to target in the auction again, purely because of that new ball skill set that he brings as an Indian fast bowler. So, and he has age on his side. So I think he's someone they definitely will and should target because he does have that new ball and death bowling skills, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's about it for Barbara. Let's move on to the next player, Mitchell Stark. He was bought for he was most expensive player last year. But again, he didn't have the greatest of seasons starting off in the IPL. After coming back for after a long time, he didn't have the greatest of like starting of IPL last year. But towards the end, he was able to prove his like who he was and take like crucial wickets in the death overs, and especially that finals that he played, what a great match. But again, uh, considering the players that they have retained, I think Mr. Stark also would have probably asked himself to release. Let's see how much he goes for. I doubt he'll go back to 20, 25 crores again. But again, he might just go to like that 15, 16 crores range again. But again, I think he just wants to try every IPL team. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great release because there's no chance he's touching 24, 25 this time because this is a way bigger talent pool that's in this mega auction. There's so many high quality Indian players that there's no way they're gonna splurge 25 crores on Mitchell Stark unless Punjab Kings just has all the money in the world and Preeti Zinta decides to pick up the paddle. But there at that same time there needs to be a second team reciprocating for that 25 crores to happen. But I think it was a great release because although he showed what a champion bowler he was in those playoff matches, uh, he wasn't really consistent last year, and he almost lost KKR a few games. I remember that one game, the game against RCB, where
First
Karan
game itself, he was
Sharma.
almost lost KKR for against SRH.
Yeah, I mean, he did. Yeah, he went for 50. Like he brought up more half centuries than a lot of batters did, I think, last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think he's a quality player, no doubting it, but he's not worth the top retention spot. The six players they retained are perfect in my opinion. And as far as foreign players are concerned, Narayan and Russell are better than Stark in my opinion, and are more consistent as well. So I don't see Stark going for that much, and I don't see KKR really looking to buy him back as well because he might be over their budget. So I think he's going to find a new team.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to our next player, final player for KKR, Chetan Sakaria. He used to be a great bowler for our. He just came out of nowhere in our and came took the spotlight, and then he was bought by KKR. Actually, DC I think bought him before KKR, and he slowly started declining from there. And I never seen him play for KKR except one or two matches I think.
I think so.
But again, he was not able to create a name, generate name for himself again after that season that he had in RR. So considering that, I think it's better for him to move on and better for KKR also to move on from him. They were never going to give him chances and stuff. So I think it's a
Yeah,
good
he's one
release.
guy. He's one guy I don't understand because for Rajasthan Royals, he played really well. He bowled with a new ball, swung it, picked wickets there. Has really good like off cutters as well. Has really good slower balls on the slowish wickets. But I don't know, it's a mysterious case. He just didn't get playing time after
Exactly.
that rookie season.
He's like one of those players, Kartik Tyagi. He also
Yeah.
had a great time in RR, but again, after getting bought by another team,
Oh yeah, that
just
game against
these players,
Punjab.
Steven Sakya and Kartik Tyagi just disappeared. Like I'm not sure what happened to them. Like let's see if they do get their playing chances again in this auction.
I mean, it's just time, I guess. Maybe like domestic season leading up wouldn't have been that great. Maybe some confidence issues, but there's no doubting the quality of the player, regardless of what kind of patch they're going through. And I feel that he's the kind of player that should be back because he has a long-term future ahead of him as well. And left-arm paces are tough to find in India. Like off the top of my head, in India, I can only remember Arshdeep Singh as the main Indian pacer, and then if I really dig deep, like I think of Mohsin Khan, Arshad Khan, Mukesh Chowdhury, but I mean, left arm seamers are hard to find in India, and I feel that if he's given a long run and the confidence by the coaching staff, he can be a player who can do well on slowish pitches like Lucknow, or maybe, or Chennai. Just groom him and give him the opportunities, and let him bowl in the different phases of the game. Like give him the new ball, give him the later middle overs to bowl those slower balls that he's good at, and I think he can be a success story in the IPL as well. So yeah, I just hope he goes to a team which uses his skills. But yeah, a good
Yeah.
retention as far as KKR is concerned.
But those are all the retentions that KKR, all the release players that KKR has released. Let's move on to our next team, GT's release players. GT has retained Rashid Khan. Again, I'm just repeating the names: Rashid Khan, Shubman Gill, Sai Sudarshan, Rahul Tripathi, and Shah Rukh Khan. The first player that they have released is BR Sharath. I mean, I don't think he ever played for GT, so I think it was a good release by GT.
Yeah, good release. I mean, they'd have to pay 4 crores for him considering he's uncapped, which he didn't really show anything to warrant those 4 crores. I think he's from wicketkeeper batter from Karnataka, but didn't really have to use him last year. So yeah, I don't really know much about the fashion in which he plays as well. So yeah, I think yeah, good release considering they already retained Tawati and Shahrukh.
Yeah, let's move on to the next player, Abhinav Manohar. He was touted to be a great finisher for GT, and he did a few games that he played. He didn't hit massive sixes, but he was never able to finish a game by himself. Like he was never able to carry a game by himself. So considering that, I think maybe the worst case, like we talked about, maybe Shah Rukh Khan could have been released and just use the RTM for either Shah Rukh Khan or Abhinav Manohar, but that's about it. I think he was not gonna get it.
Yeah,
Retention.
exactly like you mentioned. The way Abhinav Manohar has been playing in the Karnataka league that's going on as well. I think it's the Maharaja Trophy. He's been playing magnificent for his team. Bats at 4 or 5, and then play some blistering innings. I think he's a quality player, and like exactly like you mentioned, I would have, like we mentioned in the previous video as well, maybe not retain Shah Rukh Khan, but then keep the RTM up your pocket. And if an Abhinav Manohar goes cheap, just RTM him, or whoever goes cheap based on that, just RTM them, because Abhinav Manohar is also a quality player who can perform that role Shah Rukh Khan does. So yeah, I think he's one guy they could have kept an RTM for by waiting it out on Shah Rukh Khan versus him. But yeah, considering they went in with the mindset to retain Tawati and Shah Rukh, there's no choice but to release him.
Yeah, that's about him. Let's move on to the next player, Sandeep Warrior. I think he's a great bowler. I think a few games he did decently, but again, considering the players that they have retained, I think it was a good release by GT to release him.
Yeah, he's bowled well with the new ball for GT in the limited opportunities that he's got, and yeah, he has shown his skills up front. But yeah, considering the players they've retained, there's no spot for Sandeep Boyer. I'm pretty sure he's still uncapped, so in that way, there's no way he's sneaking ahead of Tawati and Shahrukh. So yeah, good release.
Yeah. Next up, we have Gurnur Brar. I mean, he never played for GT, so I think considering all like, I think he's just gonna go for a base price and auction too, if I'm being honest. So I think it was a great release by GT.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, but yeah, considering as I mentioned before, they decided to retain both Tewatia and Shahrukh, there's no way they were gonna get back Gurnoor Brar or consider him as an uncapped retention. So yeah, good release.
Yeah. Next up, we have Darshan Nalakande. I think he did play decently for 1 or 2 games. He's a great player, but again, he's not going to find a place in that top 5 spot. Maybe again, that with RTM card might have helped them a little bit, but now that's also gonna, I think that's a good release.
Yeah. Sorry, just going back to Sandeep Boyer, I mentioned he was an uncapped player. He's actually not an uncapped player, he's cap player. So more to say why they wouldn't retain him for that extra budget of maybe like 10 crores or something. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. But moving on to Darshan Nalkande, like you said, yeah, he has done decent in the limited opportunities that he's got with his pace bowling. But yeah, no way they're retaining him over Tawati or Shah Rukh Khan for an uncapped player slot. Uh, I've seen he has played decently and has a decent pace, but yeah, they're not retaining him over Tawati or Shahrukh. So yeah, good release.
Yeah. Next up, we have David Miller. This one has surprised me a little bit, considering how they haven't retained 2 international players. They could have honestly gone for David Miller. And like maybe to did some option strategy and got him back, or they could release Shah Rukh Khan, got him David Miller, or release Tivachi and got him David Miller, because both the Raul Tivachi and David Miller played similar kind of roles, just in finishing the games. I think they could have gone with David Miller, considering how talented he is, and but again, I think this is the one player they should have gotten back.
I mean, David Miller is such an explosive finisher, and we've seen him play some
Miller.
mind-boggling innings for GT. Like especially against CSK, that one game was outstanding. And I think against Rajasthan Royals in qualifier one, when GT ended up winning the trophy, he played an outstanding innings as well to win them that game. So we've seen him play so many destructive innings, and even for South Africa, he's played some amazing innings. And there's no game is over while David Miller's at the crease. But yeah, like we mentioned in the previous video as well, I would have just used that, taken out Shah Rukh Khan from that retention, and then tried and had 2 RTMs left. So, like, I could either go for Abhinav Manohar or Shah Rukh Khan, or actually use it on a cap player like David Miller. Because right now I don't think they're looking to use an RTM on him because there's Mohammad Shami there who we'll cover later on. But I don't think Miller is someone they'd RTM over Shami. So if they want him, they have to purely buy him back. And I don't know how feasible that is considering how good he's been playing around the world in leagues like the CPL as well. So
Even T20 World Cup.
yeah, T20 World Cup gave
If
all
not for
Indians a
that
heart
catch
attack.
of that from Sky, I think it was a sealed game. But
Yeah, he gave all Indians a heart attack. But Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to consider because if they wanted to retain him, they would have had to pay him around 18 crores, I think, again. Definitely not going to go 18 crores in the auction. But at the same time, I think the only way was to, like you said, remove one of those uncapped players, maybe like a Rahul Tewatia since he plays a similar role, and fit David Miller in there. But Tewatia does give you that flexibility as an Indian player. So I feel the only way was to remove Shah Rukh Khan and use a RTM on David Miller. But yeah, it's an iffy one, but I'd say David Miller is more valuable than Shah Rukh Khan considering everything. So in that way, I would have removed Shah Rukh Khan and just seen my way through the auction to try and RTM him.
But that's it for David Miller. Let's move on to the next player, Jayant Yadav. I think it was a great release by GT, considering he was never going to get that. He didn't get the playing time also, so and he was not going to get the top player attention. I think it's a great move on. I think worst case he might just go if you really want him, maybe base price or 1 crore to go. That's about it.
Yeah, good release. I mean, off spinner, he didn't get many chances for GT though, but he can bowl with the new ball with his off spin and in the middle overs. But yeah, didn't get too much of a chance with GT. So yeah, good release. I don't know. He might go unsold or he might go base price at best.
Next up, let's move on. But next up, we have Joshua Little. This one is he's a great player. What a talent he is from Ireland, considering coming from that area, coming like what a talent he has. I still remember that game he had against RCB, like the 4 wickets. I think it was just a low score game, but he was able to just come in and just take wickets or wickets. I don't know if you remember, but
Hmm.
I mean, if they were not gonna take David Miller, I think that's a good like he was not gonna go over David Miller. So I think it's a considering that it's a good release, but I think they should have retained it.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's gonna go that much in the auction because he's still an underrated commodity at the end of the day. And people from like associate nations like Ireland don't go for too much in the auction. I don't know why
Exactly.
that's the case. They
Just
have
want to
some.
mention, I think he's pretty low in that auction draft also. I think he was around 34th set or
Oh,
something.
that's so late.
He's pretty low.
I mean, it's really unfair in my opinion because there's so many quality players from associate nations like Sikandar Raza, Joshua Little. There's a guy in Ireland like Paul Sterling. There's people from Scotland like Brandon McMillan, and there's so many different options like who are quality players in their own rights, but they just don't see the auction come to their favor, and they either go base price or unsold. So I feel that's one unfair aspect. Like I feel they should be given a chance more in big leagues like the IPL. But as far as Joshua Little is concerned, yeah, his left arm pace is fascinating. He's a quality player, no doubt about it. I do remember that game against RCB where he gave all of us fans a heart attack. The 4 wickets just led to like a unbelievable collapse. But yeah, he's a quality player, but no way he's going 18 crores. So yeah, if they really want him back, they can buy him back for around base price or a bit more because as I said, he's from associate nation. Teams don't value that commodity as much, so they should be able to buy him back for pretty cheap and have him as a backup pacer option.
Yeah, that's it for Joshua Little. Let's move on to our next player, Kane Williamson, or
Kane
also known
Mama.
as Kane Mama for all our research fans. But again, he was, I think he played for 1 or 2 games, and he got injured, and then he never came back. Like he never played for GT again. And it was always on bench. But again, he has lost that T20 player in him. I think he just stuck to his test match nowadays. But again, he's still got like that T20 in him, but he's just not bringing it out. I feel like we've seen how great of a T20 player he is in that 2018 IPL season that he played for SRH. But again, he's not able to bring that out recently. But again, what a talent he is. But I think he was never going to go over David Miller too if they were going to take another international player in that top 5 spot. So I think this is a great release by GT.
I mean, it's crazy from being SRH's top retention and captain in the previous mega auction cycle to coming to this stage with just 3 years is just fascinating. But I also believe it's a result of the modern T20 game evolving as faster than it ever has. That a anchor player like Kane Williamson, overseas anchor player like Kane Williamson, is not as needed anymore. I mean, that season in 2018 was fascinating that he had for SRH when David Warner was not available. That was just a brilliant season that he had. I think he scored around 700 runs, if I'm not wrong, and had a good strike rate as well. And even that I think 2020 T20 World Cup finals, he played an amazing knock of 85. Although they lost the game, he played fascinating innings. But like you mentioned, that T20 side of him has just not shown up in the last few years, and uh, he's also had a bunch of different injuries which have caused trouble to him, and we've just not seen him play cricket that much as a whole. But no doubting the class of the player, man. He's such a quality batter in both the Test and ODI formats, but it's just the T20 format is a bit lagging behind. So it's a good release, and I don't know. He might not even get sold in the auction. Maybe someone will pick him up at base price for that just pure experience itself, to have that experience on the bench. But yeah, I mean, sad to see such a quality player decline in this format.
Joaquin Mama. Let's go to our next player, Matthew Wade. He was the opening partner for Shubman Gill 2 years ago, but again, he was never clicked in that opening spot for GT. So I think overall, I think it's a good move on for GT to just move on from Matthew Wade. I think Saha has replaced him in that opening spot after Matthew Wade. But yeah, I think it's a good release by GT considering how they have retained another player like Matthew Wade and the players not sorry, David Miller. Like he was never going to go over David Miller. So if they did want to retain one more international, so I think it's a good release.
And I think Matthew Wade joins the list of batters like Riley Russo, David Malan, who are just those foreign batters who never click in the Indian conditions and in the IPL in general. Like they've been given chances, but they've just not clicked in these conditions. Get off to sluggish starts, get out early, like that kind of mold. But he's a quality player, no doubt about it. We saw that. Pakistan fans won't forget him. I mean, that semi-final knock against them in the, I think, 2021 T20 World Cup, where Australia ended up winning it. It's simply fascinating. Hit Shaheen Shah Afridi for like three sixes, sweeping him and all that stuff. So no doubting the quality of the player, but yeah, in the IPL he's just never clicked. So good release.
Let's move on to our next player, Muhammad Shami. This one, the big one, because considering how great he played for either like the ODI World Cup before getting injured, getting the surgery, I think something happened. But before that season, also he played great for GT, and he was a key part of them winning that trophy that previous year. But again, that since that injury, he was not able to play for GT last year. Again, maybe that injury concerns are the reason that they're moving on from Mohammad Shami. But again, his quality is unmatchable. He that test length that he bowls consistently, I think that itself shows how great player he is. He's like he just takes wickets in the opening. I think he's going to go for some big prize in the auction. He's in the marquee set too. But again, I don't think GT is going to get him back. He should have
Uh,
gotten retained if anything. But yeah.
I disagree with that actually. I think he's not GT haven't moved on from him. He's the definite owner of that RTM that they have, because I think they did a calculation that, considering the amount of time he's been injured, I don't think he's played cricket since that ODI World Cup finals. So
Yeah.
considering that long of a layoff, teams might be a bit wary of picking him. Although he's such a quality bowler up front with the new ball. I mean, probably the best new ball, one of the best new ball bowlers currently in the game. People might look at that injury and be scared to pick him, thinking, what if he's not fit? What if he's not the same old Mohammad Shami? And that would come to the advantage of GT, where they can be able to RTM for cheaper than 18 crores. So I feel that in that way, I think it's a smart move, because, like you mentioned, the injury concerns are there around him. And considering there's bowlers like Siraj and Arshdeep in that marquee set along with him, they might garner more of the attention, considering they're the ones playing for India currently and are the and have been fit. So you know what to expect out of them. But with Shami, you don't know what you're going to expect coming off such a long injury, no matter how quality a bowler he is. So in that way, I don't think he'll go for that big bucks, which would give GT the chance to RTM him. I think if he goes less than 12, 13 crores, it's a sure shot RTM for GT. There's no way they would want to let such a high quality Indian seamer go. So I think the RTM is his, unless he goes over the budget, in which case they'd use it on Miller probably.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's move on to our next player, Mohit Sharma. What a great comeback he has had in GT. He's a great player, but again, I think his age is one factor that might have um, not gotten him that deal or top five retention. I think he could have replaced, if anything, Shah Rukh Khan over there. I mean, just
Yeah, he's
doesn't
an
have.
uncapped player by the rules,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. With the new rule that they've got, I think if anything, they could have just put in Mohit Sharma instead of Shah Rukh Khan. But again, I think the age has a big factor in him not getting retained. So, but other than that, I think it's a good release. I think they can get him back for a very cheap price if they do want him back.
Yeah, I mean that season he got the purple cap. He didn't even play all the games. I think he only was brought in the fifth or sixth game, and he just kept picking up wickets, kept picking up wickets, and he was such a reliable death bowler for the Gujarat Titans. But unfortunately, last year he couldn't replicate that success as much. Just got hit, and then I don't think they had the confidence to retain him this year, especially as one of the top five retentions in a mega auction class. And I like you said, the age is not on his side, so that regard, I think is a good release. But if they want him back, they can buy him back for cheap, max 4 to 5 crores, which itself I see is a lot of money for him. So I think they can definitely buy him back if they want. So it's a good release.
Yeah, that's it for him. Let's talk about the next player, Noor Ahmed, the spin partner, Afghan partner of Rashid Khan. But again, if they already have a great spinner, Rashid Khan. I don't think they needed another duo for him. If anything, they couldn't have. They were not able to play him in all the games that Rashid Khan also played. So it was either between Rashid Khan or Nur Ahmed, or they had to drop another international player in those four spots. So I think it was a great strategical move to release him, since they already have a great spinner in Rashid Khan. But again, the young talent he is, I think he's gonna go for some big bucks in the IPL auction. If
Yeah, I
anything, if
completely.
GT are
Yeah,
gonna try to get him back, but I think he's gonna go for big bucks.
yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't think there's a way in which they could have kept him back because 18 crores is way too much for Noor Ahmed. And if you look at Rashid Khan, Noor Ahmed, there's not even a comparison. No brainer, Rashid Khan. I mean, not even 1 second they think about that just because of the way Rashid Khan bowls and the batting ability he has now as well, like we mentioned in the previous video. But uh, if we're looking at David Miller or Noor Ahmed itself, I'd say I'd pick David Miller just for the finisher commodity that he brings in. So considering they didn't even retain David Miller, uh, I don't see them thinking of whether to retain Noor Ahmed or not. But like you said, he's a quality player. He'd go for a good amount of money in the auction. But he is someone where if Shami and Miller both go a lot of money, he'd be the next up on their list for a retention RTM if he does go below their budget. So if Shami and Miller they can't get, they'll definitely use RTM on Noor Ahmed.
That's it for Noor Ahmed. Let's move on to our next player, Sai Kishore. I was talking about him might big replacement of, like, instead of Shah Rukh Khan, they could have taken Sai Kishore. He's a great talent. I think he's captain of Tamil Nadu team's Ranji team, and he started to be their next Jadeja for India too. But again, we haven't seen that much from him in the IPL. I mean, he hasn't got that many chances to, but let's see. And he's a uncapped player, so if they really wanted, they could have gone for 4 crores. But again, I think he might just go for like 4 to 5 crores in the IPL auction. Let's see that. What do
Actually,
you think?
sorry to correct you. I think he actually debuted for India in the Asian games that happened, like in like
The
the
China?
Asian. Yeah, that one. I think he got capped in that. So I think that still counts as playing for
I
India
think
technically.
Ruturaj was captaining that, but
Yeah,
he was just
yeah.
maybe a player.
Yeah, he was a player. So I think he got capped in that,
Oh,
but
okay,
yeah,
okay. So
I
my
don't
bad.
yeah,
Correction.
I completely forgot about that as well until I just looked it up. But yeah, I guess that counts as T20 international. So yeah, technically I guess he's capped. But yeah, either way, I don't know if they could have found a spot to retain him in general. Um just because of the players that they retained have done more for them in their lineup than Sai Kishore has. And plus, considering he has played for India before, I don't know if they wanted to splurge a whole lot of money on him. But he's someone they definitely look to buy back if he goes cheap. The issue is a lot of teams have their eye on him. Like CSK would definitely want some local spinner on their team. RCB is in need of a spinner, considering they didn't have a proper spinner for the proper Indian spinner for the past 3 years. Lucknow would probably want a spinner. They want someone who can replace that Maniman Siddharth type role that they left
SRH,
Kunal
like
Pandya.
everyone, every team
Yeah,
requires.
every team wants a spinner, and the demand and the supply of spinners is not that much. So someone like a Sai Kishore could spike up to 7, 8 crores real easily. So Yeah, he's someone I want to look forward to in the auction to see how much he actually goes because he is someone who's played really well in the domestic circuit but hasn't got that opportunity to showcase it in the IPL. So I just want to see how he goes.
So for Sai Kishore, let's move on to our next player, Vijay Shankar.
3D.
Yep. But let's talk about him again. Not getting retained. I think it was a great move by GT not retaining him. I think we've seen how he can. I mean, he's a great player. Like, don't get me wrong, he can play a few knocks here and there. But other than that, I think it's a good move for GT to just move on from him. If anything, they can just buy him back for a cheaper price. I know other teams might be interested, especially as a edge, but let's see how that goes.
I mean, he's a 3D player. Why would you not be interested? He can bat, can bowl, he can field. It's probably my favorite quote of MSK Prasad. I mean, he's a. I mean, yeah. There's no way they're retaining him. I thought GT got the best out of him actually. You know, he played some good knocks for them. He played a good knock against RCB, I think 2 seasons ago, against KKR 1 season, I think. But yeah, there's no way you're retaining him over those other guys. I think he's comes as an uncapped player under the rule, but over Shah Rukh Khan and uh, the other guy, Rahul Tewatia, I don't think there's a way they would have retained him because those guys have more age on their side than Vijay Shankar does. I think, and Rahul Tawati is a better commodity than Vijay Shankar, regardless of age. So in that regard, I think it's a good release. And but you know he's a 3D player, so he'll definitely find his way back to some team in the IPL.
Let's move on to our next player. That's it for Vijay Shankar. Let's move on to our next player, Vriddhiman Saha. He's one of those players that have just been moving around the teams. But again, he's a good talent though. He's very short, but he can open the batting. But again, I think his age is also getting to him. So he's slowly losing his strength and power. But I think considering all that, I think it's a good release by GT.
I mean, I think y'all SRH fans really like him. He's played some really impactful innings for y'all up at the top of the order. Even for Gujarat Titans, got them off to some starts, but the issue is he started to become a scooty as well.
Towards the
The
end, yeah.
Yeah, he's become a scooty, you know, getting those 18 ball 20s, 25 ball 30s, not really impactful in this day and age. They replaced him with Sai Sudarshan at the top of the order after it just wasn't working. So yeah, no brainer to release him. But you know, the services he's done for India in the test format and how he's played for various teams in the IPL as well. He's a quality player, but I don't know. He might go for base price to some team as a backup wicketkeeper opener in the auction, but yeah, that's all I see for now.
I see. That's it for Saha. Let's move on to our next player, Azmatullah Omarzai. He was a great talent coming into that last year's auction and playing to after a great tournament he had in that World Cup. But again, he was not able to live up to his hype. He was not a player that was consistently taking wickets or consistently getting all those crucial runs. He was just a decent normal player. I think it was a good thing that GT had moved on from him. I think they might look to get him back, or other teams might look to get him back, but he won't go for that much price again, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when GT got him for a base price last year, I thought it was a steal of all steals. I mean, especially given his commodity, he can bowl you at good pace with the new ball, and he can bat it on 4 or 5. I mean, that's a such a high valuable player. But unfortunately, he couldn't give the results that the Gujarat Titans expected out of him last year with the bat or the ball. But I still think he's an absolute quality player, quality all rounder who can bowl at good pace with the new ball, swing it around both ways. We saw him like absolutely hoop it in the IPL last year when he got the chances as well. And that World Cup 2023 was fascinating. And he can bat really well and hit some big sixes and boundaries as well. So as far as that's concerned, I still think he's a really quality player, and I really want to see him in the auction. How much he goes. I hope he gets a lot of money, and I hope RCB can get him, or he just goes to a team which utilizes him for 14 games and utilizes his skill set. I think at the Wankhede, man, he'd be such a good fit, you know, because at that venue the ball swings a lot. Even at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, ball swings a lot at the beginning. He'd be so good in those conditions to give you 2, 3 overs with the new ball and also bat on those flat surfaces. So I think he'd be such a valuable player at those kind of pitches, which assist his type of play.
That's it for Omarzai. Let's move on to our next player, Umesh Yadav.
Umesh Anna.
Uh, he's a great swing bowler in the front. I think GT has gotten the best out of him in the beginning. Over the over the games he has declined a little bit. But again, he's always one of those players that people don't really care about because we've seen how good or bad he can be. But again, I think considering that players that they have retained, I think he was not gonna get a spot.
Yeah, I mean, Umesh Anna will always be etched in our RCB fans' hearts. He's bowled some great new ball spells. In the death overs, we can cut that out. But he's leagued in the death overs, but to be honest, been a new ball specialist in T20 cricket for the past how many ever years. Swings it both ways. He was actually so good with the new ball for RCB in the 2018, 2019 times, and also for KKR, he used to bowl great with the new ball and to pick up some big wickets, and but didn't really get the chance at GT, and then he just didn't get that many opportunities. But I still think he'll go past base price to a decent amount to some team just for the experience that he has and the new ball variety that he brings in, which is a commodity that's being seeked out right now. Because beyond Bhuvaneshwar Kumar and Mohammad Shami, I can't really think of any Indian new ball pacers that are that experienced as Umesh Yadav is. So I feel maybe Ishant Sharma's there, but I feel like Umesh Yadav is ahead of him in that aspect. So I think he definitely fetch a few teams' interest, but in terms of Gujarat Titans themselves, it's a good release.
That's it for Umesh Yadav. Let's move on to our next player, Sushant Mishra. I haven't seen him play that many games for GT, so I'm assuming it's a great release from GT.
Is Amit Mishra his brother or uncle or something?
Sushant Mishra, I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, but jokes apart, yeah, I haven't really seen him play or heard of him either. But I think he's an uncapped player. But as we mentioned, the two uncapped players they already retained are have made more of an impact for the team. So yeah, I guess it's a good release.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next player, Kartik Tyagi. He was one of those players that I was talking that has gone missing. He was still missing at GT. So we were never able to see him in GT. But again, it's a great release considering how he's been not known for the past 2, 3 years. I think he might just go for base price again if teams still remember him.
Yeah, I mean that one game he played for RR against Punjab Kings where he defended four in the last over. So it's just fascinating. Not only the fact that he defended four, but the deliveries he bowled. He nailed the wide line Yorkers, nailed the Yorkers. Like seemed like he could execute what he planned to do, and he seemed like a real find at that point. But like you said, he's one of those guys along with Zakaria that just washed away and just faded out of nowhere, and that's something that's shocking to me as well. And didn't really get many opportunities at SRH or GT, but he is someone who could be targeted as a late round flyer, a steal who can give you good pace with the ball at the death overs as well. So he's someone teams could look to get as a backup and groom him slowly into a starting position. So yeah. But yeah, good release as far as GT is
Yeah, good
concerned.
release. Let's move on to our next player, Manav Suthar. Never seen him play for GT, so considering all that, I think it release.
Yeah, I think he's a left arm spinner. I think he might have played one or two games in the absence of one of the lead spinners, but didn't really make that big of an impact for the team itself. So yeah, considering the uncapped players were retained, it's a good release.
And finally, we have Spencer Johnson. He has gone for big money in that last auction, but never seen that much of playing time.
Scam of
I
the
think
auction.
I think this again has proved that PBO is not does not convert the talent into IPO. So yeah, considering that, I
And
think it's a great
that
release.
was the scam of the auction. I mean, 10 crores
Uh,
for Spencer Johnson when people like Surya Kumar Yadav are getting 8 crores is absolutely insane to me. I mean, just based on like one league alone to pick someone for 10 crores just shows the auction dynamics as a whole. Like, if you need a pacer, you need him. I mean, I know GT went all out for Mitchell Stark, couldn't get him, so they just looked at the other left arm bowling options. They just went 10 crores on Spencer Johnson. So it's clear if a team wants like an option, for example, a left arm fast bowler or a leg spinner or something like that, they'll go all in on an option regardless of who it is with little data they know to fill that hole that they have in the side. So I feel like Spencer Johnson is one of those examples. They wanted a left arm seamer, couldn't get Stark, so they just went all in for Spencer Johnson and ended up paying him 10 crores. He couldn't really contribute for them either. So that way, I think, yeah, good release. No way he's getting retained ahead of those top three they retained already. Or nor is he getting an RTM ahead of Shami, Miller, Nur Ahmed, and Omar Zaid, likes of those guys.
yeah. But that's it for both the auctions and both the teams release players. Do you have anything else to say about both the teams?
No, I think they both did a decent job with the releases. I think KKR did a wonderful job retaining all those players. So as a byproduct, they had to release some players. I feel GT could have, like we mentioned in the previous video, freed up that Shah Rukh Khan space and kept one more RTM in the bank for a couple of those released players. But I still feel they did a good job with releasing most of those players to make sure that they have the money needed to still build a good team around their core.
That's it for this release player video. Let's talk about their both the team's option strategies in the next video. See you all there. Thank you.